this is going to be my last of the 3 autumn winter perfumes. So what I've done with this one is I've just tried to put in stuff that I really only wear when it's cold, rather than kind of what it is now, which is it's cooling down, but it's still that weird weather where we've got like 4 degrees, you know, at night and 17 degrees at about 5 o'clock when I'm on my way home from work. So I'm still not able to wear like super strong things, and I'm still not necessarily wearing lots of really woody things, but I'm moving in that direction. So I'm starting with some of the softer woody stuff, and then there's a couple of things here that I'll mention. It really is for when it's cold, you know. So I'm going to start off here with one that's just a straight up classic, and it's an Aldehydic classic. So this is a really old perfume, but it's also incredibly cheap because this is by Coty and this is called L'Amaint. And it's, I mean, I love the bottle. I love the Art Deco bottle, even if it is only about a £5 for about 50ml. You can get this in the UK. And although this one isn't, it's very different to the other things I've got in this list in that it's not woody, and it's, well, not massively, and it's not spicy. It's kind of quite floral, but it's like a kind of cousin of Chanel No. 5. So this is based on the perfume made by the kind of original recipe that was also used for Chanel No. 5, and it's kind of a more wearable, kind of softer, slightly less woody, less harsh version of Chanel No. 5. So it's still got that very classic vibe, but it's much easier to wear. Now the notes in this one are top notes of aldehyde, neroli, peach and bergamot, middle notes of ylang ylang, rose, jasmine, geranium and orchid, base notes of musk, vanilla, sandalwood, tonka bean, vetiver and Virginia cedar. And it is just a really pretty, very sweet, soapy, aldehydic, classic perfume. I mean, it's an absolute classic. Now you will smell quite vintage wearing this, but you'll also smell very sweet, very yummy, very classy, which is impressive for a perfume that you can get for like £5. But it's incredibly aldehydic, so it does have that soapy nature to it. But I just think this is a really beautiful perfume. And if any of you have seen one of the first videos I ever did on my channel was about L'Amaint, because it's something that I used to wear when I was younger. My grandmother used to buy it for me for Christmas, so I have such beautiful memories of this perfume, just full stop. But also, you know, as an adult now, knowing that you know, and recognizing the similarities to Chanel No. 5, there's something very joyous about having this perfume, so that sometimes if I want to smell a little bit Chanel No. 5y, I can do that on a mega budget, but also in a much more comfortable and less kind of beastly way. Because this one, compared to a lot of modern perfumes, this one is relatively strong, but it's also not strong compared to the classic, you know, Chanel No. 5. So that's just a kind of little outlier. That's my little aldehydic outlier, which is just a lovely old, very old classic. I think it's from the 20s, that perfume, maybe a bit later. So now I'm going to move on to some chocolatey perfumes. I've got a couple of chocolate ones that I don't wear when it's even slightly kind of warm. Only wear them when they're cold. So the first one is a cherry chocolate, a chocolate cherry I should say. This is Lolita Lempika, and this is sweet. Now sweet is, sweet is the right word. It's incredibly sweet, this one. So the top notes are sour cherry and sugar. The middle notes are cacao, iris and angelica. Base notes are musk, cashmere wood. And this has a cherry, like a chocolate cherry cocoa, I should say, lip gloss accord, but I always think it's more like lip balm. There's something like really waxy about this perfume, which I really enjoy. I do wonder if that's the angelica, but the iris gives it an ever so slight lipsticky vibe as well. But the sour cherry, the sugar and the cacao are what I really get from this. So there's just enough of that sourness in the cherry that means that this is wearable to me, because it could get very cloyingly sweet. And I know a lot of people do find this cloyingly sweet, but I seem to be all right with very sweet things if they're also quite chocolatey. So, oh, this is just a beautiful, beautiful chocolate cherry. And that's exactly what it smells like. There's not really much more to say about it, except that it's it's not necessarily like got the biggest projection in the world, it's not necessarily got the biggest longevity, but because it's so intensely syrupy sweet, it's not something I would ever wear when it's, you know, anything other than quite cold weather. So that's Lolita Lempika Sweet. And then the other chocolatey one I've got, which is another one that sadly has no longevity. Oh my goodness, but is it delicious? Oh, chocolate orange, straight up chocolate orange. Now this won't be a surprise to anyone because everyone talks about Hugo Boss, the scent. This is the Private Accord version, and it smells like a chocolate orange, like a Terry's chocolate orange. These really get so grubby. This is just a little 30ml. Now, I'd said when I first tested this, it was delicious, but there was no way I would buy it because it doesn't last very long, so it's not good value for money. However, I found it for £26 on Debenhams. You can actually get the Hugo Boss scent perfumes, a lot of them now, from places like Notino for under £30. So I'd happily spend, you know, 25 quid on smelling like a chocolate orange, even if I have to keep reapplying it. So it's just so tasty. The notes in this are top notes of mandarin orange, coffee, osmanthus, base notes cacao and tonka bean. Now, I don't get a huge amount of coffee in this. You get more in the dry down because obviously like you get that mandarin orange and lots of cocoa. Smells like a chocolate orange when you first spray it. And the more it dries down, the more it starts to smell like the original, the scent for her, but like the strong version of that. So you get more of the coffee and osmanthus coming through the more it dries down. But initially this is a beautiful cacao, you know, and mandarin orange smell. It's just absolutely scrumptious. While I'm on this kick, I will then continue with the kind of coffee version. So that's the scent Private Accord, and this one is the scent Absolute. So it's very dark. Let me see if I can lighten this up a tad, hopefully a little bit. So if you can see, it's a very beautiful deep dark bottle, and the notes in this are top notes of peach, honey, middle notes of coffee, base notes vanilla and vetiver. And again, it still has that kind of the scent without osmanthus, but for me this is of coffee and vanilla, and it is very, very vanilla forward. So actually, to be honest, to be totally honest, this is not staying in my collection because it's just too heavy in the vanilla for me. But I did want to mention it because it's an absolutely excellent coffee perfume if you like vanilla. It's actually quite strong. It lasts for much longer than any of the other scent perfumes, and it's a very, very pretty scent. It's just that personally I'm not very comfortable wearing very vanilla heavy perfumes. Or not certain types of vanilla, and so this one, the vanilla just is too strong for me, but the coffee in this is really strong as well, and you get a little bit of peach, get a little bit of honey. I think it's an excellent alternative to black opium, because I think black opium, and probably a lot of people agree, is just really cloying. It's also kind of boring, that profile now, because so many people wear black opium and there's so many flankers of it. And I really don't like patchouli, so this doesn't have patchouli. It's got a different profile, but it's still very, very sweet, and it's still really strong in the coffee. So I think it's a really, really good option. So we've got some chocolate, we've got some coffee. And now let's move into, let's go for some woods. So let's start with this. Now, this is one of the rare, I'll start moving these out of the way. This is a rare and quite expensive perfume for me, but it's very old. So this is Christian Dior, and this is Dune. Now you can see from how dark the liquid is. I mean, it's quite a dark liquid anyway, but you can see it's a very old bottle. This is the eau de toilette though. This is like, you can still get Dune today, but you can only get it in big bottles, and you can only get eau de toilette. Now Dune is it's quite a difficult perfume to describe. I'm wearing it on my arms now so I can try. because sometimes you just like something and it's hard to explain what it is and what it smells like. And Dune is an interesting perfume. It's unlike anything really I've smelt before, while also having certain similarities to sweet woody perfumes. But I'll give you the notes and then I'll try to explain how I think this smells. So top notes are Brazilian rosewood and aldehydes, mandarin orange, bergamot and peony. Middle notes of lily, ylang ylang, wallflower, jasmine and rose. Base notes sandalwood, amber, benzoin, oak moss, vanilla, patchouli and musk. So obviously, I mean, it's a classic old school perfume, so it's got a lot of notes. There's a lot of aldehydes. It's very pungent when you first spray it, and it really smells old-fashioned. And again, it's got that kind of Chanel No. 5 style vibe where it smells like an vintage perfume. But the magic of it is in the dry down, because when it dries down, what you get is you get the rosewood, which is very, very soft and pretty, and then you get an incredibly beautiful powdery sandalwood. And somehow all of the notes in this then also mix up to smell like warm sand. And I know that sounds mad, but it's called Dune for a reason. It's like, it's very dry, but it's also very, very warm. So I think a lot of people like this for summer, but for me personally, there's no way I just don't wear really woody perfumes when it's hot, so I can't do that myself. But when it dries down, you have to give it like 5 minutes, because when you first spray it, you're going to be like, oh god, and then it dries and it gets very, very soft, and it's not got a massive amount of projection. It's like medium projection, medium longevity, the modern Dune, but it's very soft. It's very powdery and pretty, and the vanilla in it comes through just to sweeten it, because it has got a lovely sweetness to it. It's not like dry and sharp. It's sharp when you first spray it, 100%. That's when you've got the mandarin orange and the bergamot and the aldehydes, and you've got all that kind of sharp madness going on. But when it dries down, you get to that base and you've got the sandalwood, the amber, the benzoin, the musk and the vanilla, and it just gets so warm. I don't really recognise much patchouli. I wouldn't be able to necessarily pick out what the flowers are, but it's just very, very pretty. It's a beautiful, gentle wood perfume, but it's also very expensive. So you can't get this for you can't get a new bottle for less than 100 and something pounds nowadays, because you can only get 100ml. So it might not necessarily be a safe blind buy. It's definitely worth trying to pick up a second-hand bottle, or from eBay or something if you can. If you've got anywhere that sells it, you can test it. Just give it a go, walk around in it, leave it, and then see how you feel. But it's a very, very beautiful perfume, Dune. It's very special. Christian Dior, when they do good perfumes, they absolutely smash it. So then we've got, oh, I cannot wait to wear this perfume. Oh my goodness, it's so lush. A much easier wear. So this is Adam Levine, For Her, and this perfume is exceptionally delicious. It's a lovely, lovely, beautiful, very sweet marigold and sandalwood perfume. It's another one where it doesn't smell good if you spray it on the paper. It doesn't smell great when you first spray it. As soon as it starts to dry down, it's absolutely gorgeous. So the notes here are top notes of spices, marigold, saffron and citruses, middle notes of Australian sandalwood, Indian jasmine and rose petals, base notes vanilla and benzoin. And when you first spray it, I get definitely some spices. I've definitely got a bit of that saffron. It's kind of it doesn't mention that it's like aldehydic, but it does have like a vintage perfume smell about it when you first spray it. And it has got, as much as I don't like to say it, but it's the same with L'Amaint and Dune and that old lady vibe, and I don't, I can't think of a better term that kind of describes it, but it doesn't remain like that. Very quickly it starts to dry down. The marigold is the flower that I smell absolutely dominantly above all the others. The sandalwood is unbelievably soft and powdery and gentle and pretty. It's a creamy sandalwood, this. It's gorgeous. And then a lot of vanilla comes through. But because that, like, it's just so perfectly balanced, this one, it's really nicely made. But because it's so sweet, and I would say I sort of recognise it's vanilla, but it's got that kind of vanilla-y vibe where if you told me it was tonka bean, I'd have believed you. You know, it's got that kind of sweet base, but I wouldn't necessarily go, oh god, this is vanilla, because I probably wouldn't like it if it was like massively recognisable as vanilla, the way that Hugo Boss Absolute is very recognisable as being vanilla. But because this is so sweet, I need to wait until it's cold to like properly wear it on like regularly. But I'm very excited to do that because it is absolutely beautiful. I love it. So that is, start doing a little bit of a rearrange here because that's a big one. So let's put that over there. Okay. Oh, speaking of vintage, this is mad, this perfume, but I'm fond of it. So it's someone was saying on one of the, like, I made a video of a review of the Bill Blass trio. The trio is nude and black and hot, and this one is Bill Blass Hot. It's got like a kind of planetoid type thing on the top. Someone was commenting on how cheap the bottles are, but you know, they are, like, the actual perfume is full stop cheap. So, you know, I'm thinking that's fair enough. They look cheap because they are cheap, but this perfume is another one you have to be patient with. You can get it in the UK for about, like, between £5 and £10 for 100ml. When you first spray it, absolutely hardcore, old school, old lady perfume again. And then it dries down and it's carnations and honey and cinnamon. Now, the actual notes of this, again, it's an old one, so there's loads. Top notes, green notes, bergamot and aldehydes, and that is absolutely what you get at the beginning of this. And that is why it's so, like, woof. Middle notes, white honey, carnation, cinnamon, bay leaf, orris root, tuberose, rose, lily of the valley and jasmine. And I would warn that when you first spray it, there is a slight, it's that kind of honey that has that slight pea smell, which a lot of aldehydic perfumes do, but it really doesn't last, so not to be too scared. The base notes are oak moss, amber, incense, sandalwood, patchouli, Virginia cedar, vanilla and musk. I don't get a huge amount of incense. I think the patchouli kind of, for me, seems like it's sitting up the top because that's when it's smelling kind of old-fashioned to me, quite strong. But again, it starts to dry down and the cinnamon really starts coming through, the sandalwood really comes through, the carnation is quite strong in this, and then the honey and the vanilla just sweeten the whole thing up. And I think of this as being like really Christmassy because of the cinnamon in it, and I think it's basically, I mean, I would, if I was going to boil it down, it's like cinnamon sandalwood, you know. This one's marigold sandalwood, this one's cinnamon sandalwood, this one's sandalwood and sand, you know. So I think it's definitely worth a look, but if you don't like vintage perfumes, then maybe stay away from that one. It's going to be a bit much, you know. Let's try and brighten this up again. Then let's do another one that's kind of woody spicy. This one's new. It's very unusual, this perfume. I don't think I've ever smelt anything like it, and I don't think I have anything like it. This is Calvin Klein Secret Obsession. Now, people are really rude about this bottle, and I wouldn't have even noticed if it wasn't for the bottle. I love this bottle. I think it's so 70s, excellent glass heaven. I absolutely love it. I love it. I don't know why people don't like it, but anyway. So obviously part of the classic Calvin Klein Obsession range. The original Obsession, I think I find it a little bit harsh, a little bit too kind of sharp woods, a bit too masculine. This one is definitely more feminine. It's a bit softer. I don't know. Because this is new to me, I'm still trying to work out how I feel about it, because generally speaking, I would I wish this was a little bit sweeter than it is. Some people describe it as sweet, but I don't think, compared to like any of these other perfumes, this is not sweet. This is probably the sharpest on the list. But I'll give you the notes and then I'll try to explain how I think this smells. So top notes are nutmeg, plum, mace and rose. Middle notes tuberose, jasmine, orchid, ylang ylang and orange blossom. Base notes sandalwood, amber, vanilla, cashmere wood, cedar, wormwood and orris. Now the wormwood is kind of noticeable because I've recently smelt Body by Burberry, the Eau de Toilette and the Tender, and they've both got wormwood in, and I'm like, I can get that kind of vibe from this one. It's definitely got noticeable florals, but I don't think any of them are particularly strong. It's plummy and it's spicy and there's definitely wood, but it kind of makes me think of fortified wine, you know, like port or something like that. So it has a slight syrupy sweetness, but it also has a acidic kind of vibe to it. And then on top of all of that, it doesn't mention aldehydes, but I feel like this, especially when you first spray it and for maybe like the first 20 minutes, it feels very aldehydic to me, and it feels incredibly soapy, like very, very soapy. So it's quite an unusual one, but the more it dries down, the more I couldn't stop smelling it. So I wanted to put it in here because I do actually think this is really unusual, and I wonder if it depends on your skin chemistry as to kind of how it will smell on you. It lasted for quite a long time, but yeah, it's definitely, to me, soapy, boozy, spicy and woody. So if that appeals to you, you can get these for about 20 quid for a bottle of Secret Obsession nowadays. I'm pretty sure these have been discontinued. However, they do seem relatively easy to find, especially in the UK. I don't know about other places, but these were quite easy to find for me. So anyway, so that's a really interesting one, I'd say. That's one of the most interesting things I've smelt in quite some time. Now then, where did we get to? Oh, we're on spicy. So, okay, a bit of explanation for this next one because it is a bit of a random one. So, it's getting very dark again because it's got dark outside while I've started filming this. Now, this is something that I used to wear all the time, but this bottle, you can see there's actually quite a bit left in this one. This is very long discontinued. It's probably been discontinued for 20 years, and I'd say this bottle is 25 years old, probably more. I think so anyway. I think this came out in like 96, 98, something like that. This is Nina Ricci, Labels de Ricci, and I know it as Spicy Delight, but the proper name is Delice de Spices. I don't know how to pronounce that properly, excuse me, it's obviously French, but that translates to Spicy Delight. Now, this is the perfume that I wore when I used to wear this is a flanker of the original Labels de Ricci, the one that then became in the green bottle with the pink lid that became Liberty Fizz. That was my daytime perfume for like 16 years. This is the one that I used to wear when I went out for the evening. So the reason I wear this is because it was like sweet and spicy, and I thought it made me smell like a sort of kitchen cupboard with all the stuff that you make cakes with. Slightly fruity, very spicy, a little bit sweet. So just to give you an idea, the notes in this one were orange, apple, grapefruit, middle notes cinnamon, cardamom, carnation, orchid, jasmine, base notes vanilla and cedar. And it just, it's just an odd creation that I had never managed to find anything for years that smelt like it until I found this guy. This is Art Collection number 9 by Giacomo or Giacomo, I don't know how you pronounce this. It's just a very kind of basic bottle, and this smells almost identical to Spicy Delight Liberty Fizz, Spicy Delight Label de Ricci. It hasn't got identical notes, but it's got very similar notes. It's really spicy and it's sweet and it's slightly fruity. So the notes in Art Collection number 9 are top notes of orange, pink pepper, Amalfi lemon, middle notes of mango and praline, base notes cinnamon, sandalwood and vanilla. And I think it's like orange, praline, cinnamon, sandalwood, vanilla. It's like properly cake spice. It's Christmassy, you know. It has that slight Christmassy vibe. It's also got a rubbish lid because they're not expensive perfumes, these. I think they've been long discontinued, but you can definitely still get these. You can get these on eBay, I checked. So this to me is a slightly Christmassy, sweet and tasty, very gently woody, and it's not woody in a way where you'd be like, oh, that's a woody perfume, because this is more spicy than it is woody, but it just has that kind of creamy powdery sandalwood in the base, and then obviously you've got the cinnamon, but it's not too dry and dusty because you've also got orange and mango, and then you've got sweetness from praline and vanilla, and the pepper and the cinnamon just giving it that spicy vibe. It's a really, really nice perfume. It's very unusual. It's not unusual to me because I had Spicy Delight, but like I said, I'd never really found anything that smelt like that perfume before. There is a really expensive perfume listed on Fragrantica that I've completely forgotten the name of that is supposed to smell like it, but I can't really comment on that because I haven't smelt it myself. But you can get it for under 20 quid for 50ml, and I think it's a very, very interesting perfume. It's really, really good for winter and Christmas time. So then the last two are incensey, you know, so something that has a bit of an incensey vibe. So this one, Stash by Sarah Jessica Parker, another thing that's been discontinued, annoyingly. Try to snap them up now. I wasn't sure whether I'd put this in, but it's so delicious. I love it so much. I think it's my favourite woody perfume, which is a surprise to me because it's relatively new, and new to me anyway, and I hadn't expected to like it as much as I do, but I am, oh my goodness, I'm addicted to this. I absolutely love it. Every time I smell it, I want to wear it. I want to wear it all the time. I am really, really in love with Sarah Jessica Parker's perfumes, and particularly Stash. And Stash Unspoken, which you would have seen in my last one. Even Privé is delicious. So the notes in Stash are black pepper, sage, grapefruit. Middle notes are atlas cedar, patchouli, pistachio, white ginger lily. Base notes are Masoya wood, olibanum, vetiver and musk. And when I just sniff it, this is the oil version, but the Parfum de Elixir is just as good, smells the same. I've also got, I want to show you a sexy scented hair mist. So you can still get these as well. You can get these in the UK. It's 150ml, and I just use this as going on my clothes as well, you know. Oh god, it's so lush. So I find that you get the grapefruit and actually the patchouli and the pepper and the cedar along with the sage. That's what I get at first. But I can also actually smell quite a lot of the white ginger lily, because when I smell it, I do think it smells gingery. But the more it dries down, the more I get warmth, sweetness. I start to get a creamy pistachio smell on my skin, and I know not everyone gets that, but I'm very lucky in that really comes out on me, and it starts to smell a bit nutty. And then that Masoya wood is so heavenly and smooth. It's basically like the nicest sandalwood I've ever smelled, even though it's not sandalwood. So I don't know Masoya wood from anything else, but my goodness, it's so beautiful. Now this has like that olibanum, gives it an incensey vibe that is so, so pretty, and absolutely just makes you feel like exactly what she wanted, like you're in a church. There is something about this perfume that is so church-like, but in the nicest possible way. It's got the woods, it's got the incense, but it's so sweet, it's slightly herbal. I absolutely love it. It's one of my all-time favourites. I had to be really good and not buy up every bottle in the whole of the UK, because I'm really sad it's been discontinued, but I want to keep shouting it out, because while it's still available, I think it's absolutely worth getting. It's so special, Stash. It's just one of the nicest perfumes I've ever smelt, honestly. I can't believe I'm saying that. Okay, So last, but definitely not least, is this little bottle of Heaven. I'm just going to have a quick sniff. I mean, when you're talking about incense perfumes, Poison is going to have to be up there, right? Now, again, you might notice that I think I don't have many perfumes that are very expensive, but the ones I have are nearly always by Christian Dior. I don't know. I just feel like their old perfumes are so special. They're so gorgeous and they're so individual and interesting. They don't smell like anything else from anywhere else. And I do actually have a dupe of Poison that I will talk about, which I just can't wear. I don't like it. It's far too animalic. But, you know, Poison by Dior ticks so many boxes. It's fruity, it's syrupy, it's honeyed, there's incense. It's very strong in the incense. This is the modern version of Poison, the eau de toilette, and it is very strong in the incense. It's woody, it's spicy, it's got so much going on in it, but it's just magical. And it is absolutely what an evil queen would wear as a perfume. And you know, I quite like to be an evil queen on occasion, so you know, it's beautiful, but it's also, even in its current formulation, it's a beast. It's an absolute beast. This is one I can only wear when it's cold, and also, to be honest, it's one that I am very likely to just wear on my wrists because it's strong enough that if you just move your arms around, you will give off that smell, you know. It's not necessarily one that I would want to spray on my neck. I wouldn't spray it on my clothes because it's when it's on the skin is when it dries down into its most beautiful. So the notes in this, there's a lot because it's old from the 80s. So the top notes are plum, wild berries, coriander, anise, Brazilian rosewood. Middle notes are tuberose, incense, white honey, cinnamon, opoponox, carnation, jasmine, African orange flower and rose. Base notes are vanilla, amber, sandalwood, musk, heliotrope, vetiver and Virginia cedar. So there's a lot. But I can look through this and I can say, yeah, in the beginning, I get a ton of incense. I get the coriander and the anise. So I get those spices. I get the berries and the honey, and then a bit of the cinnamon. And then it starts to dry down. And the more it dries down, you get the plum. And it's a very syrupy, sweet plum. Honeyed plum, right? And you get tuberose, and it's a very specific tuberose Dior Poison. It's like a beautiful, it's ever so slightly bubblegummy, but it doesn't have that powdery kind of soapy, like it's a beautiful, crisp, fresh, bubblegummy tuberose. It's so pretty. And then you get it just, I don't really get a huge amount of the base notes. I do get some sandalwood. It's warm from amber. It's definitely musky, but I get more honey than vanilla in this. So to me, it's kind of sandalwoody, incense heavy, tuberose, plum and honey, you know. And it's absolutely a magical potion. It's a magical potion. This is a tester bottle, so it's probably even stronger than the ones that you get, but I think this was about £100 for 100 ml of a tester bottle. This was from Fragrance X when I got this one originally. It's an eau de toilette, like I said. And yeah, I mean, I think it's worth the investment. I'm sure that there's lots of dupes of Poison. I'm yet to come across one that I think is as beautiful as actual Poison. And, you know, like I said, this is the modern, current version of it. It's not an old bottle. It's what you can actually buy, and it's very special. It does have that kind of grapey, grape juice vibe in the deep dry down, but I think I mean, people talk about how it used to smell like that initially, like in the old version, but I do wonder whether it's because people are smelling old bottles where the top notes have burnt off a bit, you know, because I think that often happens with perfumes. I think you start to lose some of the notes the older it gets. And you end up with kind of, if it doesn't go peppery, if it stays in good quality, you end up with the deep dry down notes, you know. And the deep dry down of Poison is a sweet plum, you know, whereas when you first spray it, hardcore incense, really, really smoky incense. But yeah, it's an absolute evil queen smell, and it's absolutely gorgeous, and it's a queen of my winter perfumes, frankly. But it is definitely one to wear in cold weather. It's an evening scent, definitely not a daytime one. It's also very treasured because it's so expensive, you know. So I've got, yeah, I think my most expensive perfumes, they are all Dior. They're all Dior. I've got this, I've got Dune, and I've got Forever Dior. And then I've got an Yves Saint Laurent, which is about 75, but all of those are over 100. But I don't really buy expensive perfumes outside of that, so there's just something magical about the old Diors that just are just absolutely timeless, and I can't find anything else that smells like them. So yeah, so that is my little list of lovely things that I wear when it's very, very cold. So I hope that was interesting or informative. I hope you got some ideas for some nice things to wear. And yeah, I'm going to come back with a little video about some really safe things to like buy people for Christmas, like some really affordable and budget perfumes that I think are like really safe to buy for pretty much anyone who likes perfumes. So that will probably be the next big video that I do. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed this one.